back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
You guys already know what it is.
Honestly, yeah. We're back. Episode 7.
7, yeah.
Crazy work.
Yeah. Special guest with us.
Special guest. But
again,
first,
because why not?
right. Always. Maybe.
Sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't happen, y'all, but it's fine.
You right. But first, I want to send out a special thank you to i.B.Artin for coming on the podcast last episode. It was really great to have her on, and it was also really refreshing just to hear her outlook on things and all her experience. And I'm sure it was great for you to see her bestie for the
my
restie.
bestie. Oh my gosh, I miss her so much. I'm like,
so it was nice to meet her. Such a joy.
Yeah.
But also, speaking of a joy, this week we have Jordan Wynn with us.
Period. Broadway queen.
Yes. Professional dancer, actor, singer. Super happy to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. And, today we're just going to talk about your experience, professional experience. And, first things first, to kick us off, could you tell us a little bit about you and, what you've done, what you've been doing?
Yeah, so Jordan Wynn. Hi, everybody.
Hey, girl.
But yeah, I'm originally from Rochester, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Rochester my whole life, danced at a predominantly ballet studio, taking jazz and modern once a week. Kind of didn't really fit into the ballet mold, and quickly was told and kind of realized that for myself that that's not even what I wanted to do anyway. And once I got to high school, started pursuing more contemporary dance styles. And also over the summers, we would have like a lot of teachers from different dance backgrounds come and teach us some musical theater, contemporary, sometimes ballroom, different dance styles. And that kind of made me really expand my horizons and think that I think contemporary is something that I might be more interested in.
Yeah.
So when I got to high school, I ended up attending the Alvin Ailey summer dance program.
When were you there?
I was there summer 2016.
Wait.
What?
Was I there? I was there for 2 summers.
Oh my gosh.
I was there. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait.
Wait, this is gaggy.
I think I was either 2016 or 2017.
Okay.
Because I went a year and then I didn't go and then I went the year after that. And so it was either like 2015 and 2017 or it was 2014, 2016.
Oh
but
my gosh.
we may have been there together, girl.
That's wild.
Period.
Right. Wait,
my gosh.
That's so cool.
Oh my gosh.
Work.
We're going to go back to that. I wanna
Wait,
go back to
there's
that.
more. I'll say
There's more in that.
There's more in
but
that.
keep going.
Right.
Keep going.
That's so funny. Oh my goodness. But that was really my first dance program that I had done where I was surrounded by that many black dancers. I mean, growing up, it was really only my sister and I and a couple other black dancers here and there, but nobody that was able to stay there consistently for we had been there for years and years and years, and we had seen some black dancers come and go. So it was really just my sister and I. So that was really Ailey was really my first experience dancing with people that looked like me, like more than like 1 or 2 other people that looked like me. So it was like, oh my goodness.
Whole building full.
Finally, this whole building is full of black people.
Yeah.
Which is great for me to just finally experience that and be embraced for what I was like bringing fully, which was really nice and refreshing. And then the summer after that, I went to Juilliard's Summer Dance Intensive.
Come on, Juilliard.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Which also really, again, broadened my horizons. And I learned a lot about different dance styles and companies and Ohad Naharin and Gaga and all these very...
Love Gaga.
Yes.
Gaga eats.
Yes, it eats out.
Gaga
and
eats.
I had never heard of any of these things really. Because I was just predominantly focusing on ballet at my studio. So it was very exciting to learn and choreograph and try different things and kind of shed some of that not sort of shame for not fitting into what I was told that I should fit into at a ballet studio. So it was really nice to do that. And then went to NYU Tisch for undergrad, which is also incredibly eccentric in its stylings and teachings, very contemporary and ballet focused.
Did you guys graduate the same year?
I graduated in 2021, but I did enter in 2018.
Okay.
So the dance program there is like 3 years and 2 summers. So I was there, but also COVID hit, which was very interesting to do as a dance major, having to dance in my living room.
Girl, I get it. We were like dancing. Also, I literally keep interrupting you in your story.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm like, she has the same life experience as me. Oh my gosh. But like dancing in COVID, COVID hit right when I was a freshman, and it was by spring semester it was like spring semester up until junior year. It was just like COVID college, so I don't really know what a college experience feels like a full one. But like dancing in my kitchen, like when we went back to school, we had like these boxes that we had to dance in, and we couldn't touch the floor, had to wear socks. Like it was just like a contemporary dance major's nightmare because they wouldn't let you be on the floor, and we live on the floor.
Yeah, it was so
It's awful.
Strange, truly. I mean, having to like wear masks and having to like wipe down where we touched the bar, and also having kind of almost assigned spots at one point, and couldn't rent studio space like with each other. We would have to do it alone. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And I ended up kind of doing 3 summers instead of the 2, just because I wanted a little bit more extra time to focus on different things. I was minoring in social and cultural analysis at NYU.
Right.
So I was also juggling those classes, and kind of my fall semester of my senior year, I like kind of was doing the dance program part-time so I could focus more on those classes. And also because I was like, will the dance world be the same after this? Will I be able to get a job? So I want to make sure I'm fostering some of my other skills so I can, have more things that make sure I have other things that I'm interested in and good at to apply to the real world in case, things don't go my way.
Yeah.
So I did graduate, and I actually did have a 9 to 5. I was working at NYU in the undergraduate admissions department for like 3 months, and was going to NYU in the admissions building, and was working in my little business casual 20 and just figuring it out. And then July of 2021, I got an email from the director of the dance department, and he was like, hey, I put your name in to this casting associate. They're looking for a Black dancer who's really proficient in contemporary dance. And he was like, oh, it's for the national tour of Oklahoma. And actually during my freshman year, I had done been selected to do like an off-Broadway run of Oklahoma, and like did some small bits of dancing in that, and was now older, and it was to understudy this large solo. It was this Black woman who has this like 14-minute solo by herself dancing. Oof. And I was due to be like essentially her alternate was what I was auditioning for. So I did audition for that, and I ended up getting it. And that kind of, I like resigned from my job, and
you're like,
as you should.
I was like, I'm going on tour. Bye-bye.
Yes. And I had found out like rehearsals, I had found out like a week and a half before rehearsals were due to start. So I had to very quickly like switch my life around. So yeah, I booked that. I was on tour on and off for the better part of a year. Toured to probably about, I think, 18 cities around the U.S., which was really interesting to experience as a like kind of fresh out of college. Literally turned 21 on the road.
Oh my Lord.
Yes. So it was really, I was like really just fresh out and like figuring it out. In the midst of that, when I would come back from breaks, I was also working with dance companies. I was working with this one called Shades Dance Theater. I was working with Dance Higginbotham, and John Higginbotham was the choreographer of the tour that I was on, so he kind of brought me into his company, and did Jacob's Pillow with that, and just kind of was freelancing, doing a bunch of things. Then after tour, I was kind of unemployed, freelancing, figuring it out for a while. I worked at Equinox. I was judging dance competitions. I was doing a bunch of random like small dance projects. And then after that, I got an audition for Moulin Rouge in February of 2022, or sorry, February 2023 at this point. And I originally had auditioned, I had gotten all the way to the end, and then I had gotten, no, you didn't get it. And I was like, oh, goodness, I'm in the midst of like being unemployed and kind of figuring it out. And to hear a no to the show that I was like, I really want to be in that, was kind of heartbreaking because I had also seen it. I'd seen the tour. They had a tour in San Francisco. Oklahoma was in San Francisco at the time, and we got to see it. And I was like, I could do that. And then I was like, I finally got this audition. I made it all the way to the end. And then to hear no, I was like, oh, brother. This sucks. But they invited me to this thing that they have called an intensive, where they invite dancers to come along, learn the material. They pay them the Broadway salary for a week, and which was really nice at that time, and was just kind of gave me time to like learn the material and see. It was like a week-long audition. Did that. That was ended up being 3 months later in May of 2023. And then 3 weeks later, my agents called me and they were like, you booked Broadway. And I was like,
wow.
I love to hear it.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yes. So it was a wild, very, very free-flowing journey to get there that had a lot of kind of bits and bobs of, this is actually scary. Will I make it type thing? But it was really rewarding, and just such a beautiful feeling to finally like be like, I got this thing that I've been working towards. So yeah, I was in Moulin Rouge for a while. I was in the ensemble full time and covered 2 featured tracks. I also kind of just was doing a bit of everything. I was on a lot for the featured tracks, so that was really nice that they put a lot of trust in me to understudy 2 roles in my Broadway debut, which was really exciting. And yeah, it was intense. I at one point got injured, tore my meniscus 3 months in, so that was interesting. Had to be out for a little while.
Oh my God.
Came back and kind of struggled to kind of fully get back because the injury was pretty detrimental. Yeah. But then eventually kind of got much stronger with a lot of physical therapy and things like that. And then, was there all the way through for like a year and 2 months. So I very randomly now have booked Gypsy. I'm now in Gypsy on Broadway, and I'm a swing in that. And that came very much out the blue. Very much out the blue. I had started, after 1 year on Broadway, you can kind of make a decision with your contract if you want to renew for 6 months and be locked in for those 6 months, or renew for a year and be locked in for a year, or you can just say, I want to renew my contract, but I want to have like a 4-week out if something comes up. So at that time, I was trying to see if they would like lock, like what the options were. And essentially I ended up choosing a 4-week out just because I was like, my agents were like, who knows what'll happen? You're young. You might want to try different things. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I was very much I think that was maybe my second audition since my 1 year had been up. And because I wasn't necessarily looking, I really liked being in Moulin Rouge, and I loved the costumes, the makeup. It was very like glitz and glamour. Essentially, like I was wearing like a thong and like a corset every night, and I was like, this is what
Freedom!
It is. Yes, like, yes. Finally. And also I really was just like, wow, this is really the first time that I'm like really being embraced for my body too. I mean, there was so much, I think sometimes shame that I did hold for like being like a curvaceous dancer. And I think like you heard a lot of messaging very early on, like inappropriately, that was not okay, or you should lose weight, or what, all this stuff that was just super harmful, and ended up being like literally not true. I came to quickly find out. So I didn't want to like leave that feeling and leave that environment, because I really loved the things my body was being challenged to do in that show, and it was being showcased, and that was really so nice for me. But so I wasn't really necessarily like going into these auditions like, oh, I'm desperate to leave my job, because I was not at all. I loved my job. But then an audition for Gypsy came around, and I had heard that Audra McDonald was going to be starring in it.
Yeah.
So was Joy Woods, Jordan Tyson, Danny Burstein, a bunch of people that I'm like, wow, like these are some really big names.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was like, wow, who's going to be in that? You know, I was excited to hear who else was going to be in it. And then I very last minute got an audition, like probably like 2 weeks before rehearsals were due to start for the show. So, and they were looking for a female swing. And yeah, we danced 2 combinations. I sang Don't Rain on My Parade. And I was like, wow, I felt really good about that. And I like read some of the acting lines.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I felt really good about that. But like, who knows what'll happen?
Right.
I have a job that I love.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it is what it is. It's
like
okay.
having that security of like, even if this doesn't go well, like I'm still on Broadway. I will still be on Broadway.
Right. You'll still be happy where you're at.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was great. And then I was like, okay, like we'll see what happens. And I told some of my friends at work about it, just because I was like, I'm not probably even gonna get this. Like, and I was like, I danced like all right in the audition, but I don't know, like who knows what they're thinking, you know?
Yeah.
And then I got a call like 3 days later from my agents, and they were like,
we need you.
so yeah, they were like, so you booked it, and I went, huh? I was laying in bed and I went, what? Like, my agent was like, girl, you sound so surprised, and I was like, I am.
Wow.
It's like, actually, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, well, yes, that I am. So it happened very quickly. They gave me like 48 hours to decide.
Oh my gosh.
And then rehearsals started like 11 days later or something like that. Like, it happened so quickly. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm at Gypsy now. I've been on a bunch. I have 6 tracks that I cover. We opened in December, and I've done 4 out of the 6 that I cover. So still kind of like getting into the swing of things, literally, and yeah, just figuring it out as I go. This is a new role for me. I've never covered this many tracks before. At Moulin Rouge, I had my 3 with the ensemble and the 2 other tracks, but this 6 is definitely like a different task. But it's fun. It's challenging. It's a different thing, like going to work and not necessarily being on stage, but also simultaneously having to kind of sometimes look over my tracks, like my tracking sheets, essentially study guides that I've made to make sure that I'm, keeping those fresh in my mind. But it's good. It's fun. It's exciting. It's been an honor to work with such amazing people and be so inspired at work every day. And yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome to hear. Couple things that came up in my mind were, I noticed that as you were telling your story, you didn't have that typical dialogue. I feel like that we always hear, that's like, I was going at this audition and this audition and this audition, like just continuously putting myself out there. And so did that happen before you booked Mulan, or you have an agent? So like, was it just like you're submitting like these self-tapes or whatever, and then they're sending it out? Like, what was that process like for you getting to Broadway?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was at one point kind of doing, like, I would have like 1-2 auditions a week. But I noticed that the closer that I got to booking Moulin Rouge, I would get farther in these other auditions. So I was noticing, I was like, okay, I'm starting to get the swing of how to like figure out these rooms, and getting a call back, and getting, being asked to sing, or impressing people in this way or that way, and like figuring out how to come into the room and be myself, but also figure out how to be like adaptable in the room, being eager to learn, and just showing the people that are casting and producers and directors and choreographers that I can be the person for you that's going to be ready to like figure these things out, solving their problem, being the answer to their problem. But it was a lot at one point. I mean, I was definitely like getting close to things and not ending up getting that gig, which was frustrating at a point. I mean, I was, I think, unemployed for a total like 8.5 months. and kind of, or like loosely employed figuring it out. And it was really tough. I mean, I think there were definitely moments where I was like, geez, like, what is it?
Yeah.
Like, also I had money saved up. The money's dwindling. I'm now having to weigh my options of like, do I move home? How do I need to figure out a way to pay my rent. You know, there's like, it becomes like more things were just at stake at a certain point where I was like, oh, yikes, like we really got to figure this out.
Yeah.
But also like I want to stay true to myself and true to my goals. And Moulin Rouge was really something that I was like, I really want to be in this, and I feel like this is the thing for me. How do I make sure that I'm performing in a way that, you know, gets me towards those goals? But yeah, there were definitely audition after audition after audition after audition.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, I think having you on literally right after Tashelle, who was on our previous episode, who Mars mentioned earlier, you guys are both in like the musical theater realm. Like, it would actually be really interesting to have both of you on at the same time. Plus Tamia again, because all three of you are in this like theater world, and there are so many similarities between your experiences, but also hearing the different results, even though you guys are all doing, like, you guys have had the same process relatively, you know, like you go to school and then you graduate and then you get booked right away, and then it's like empty, and then suddenly things start picking up. And so like it's amazing, seriously, to hear that. I how I interpret it is that like what was for you truly came to you. Like, and I think that is such a big thing to stress, because, you know, I asked you about this auditioning phase because so many dancers are just out there just auditioning every day. Like, I have a friend who's trying to get booked Broadway now, and every single day, like, I swear he's like at 5 different auditions a day, and my heart hurts for them, because I'm like, I know how exhausting that is, and also hearing the experiences of other people, you know, adds to that understanding of how exhausting it is. And so like to hear that, you know, like if you go into these auditions and you have a mindset of like internal growth, but also like truly like having that faith in yourself of like, you know, what's for me, like, will find me, or like, you know, I'm just gonna stick to this because I know I can do that. Like, I know I can do that. Like, I feel like that's really refreshing to hear, because I mean, auditioning is really hard. But speaking on the I know I can do that, there is nothing like watching a performance. I'm sure you've like seen that, you know, felt this with the orchestra too.
Oh, for sure.
You're watching a performance and you're like, that right there, put me on a stage now. Like,
I can do that.
I can literally do that.
Yes.
And then you go to an audition, and then like maybe you don't get it, and you're like,
I thought I could do it.
wait a minute. What do you mean?
Yes.
What do you mean? Like, wow. Just, I love the like how all of these experiences are like universal, and like doesn't really matter what art. I feel like you do. Everyone kind of has this shared lived experience. It's amazing. It's awesome.
I feel like that feeling is like also really affirming to like do, even if it's something new. Like, I feel, yes, I've had that experience a lot with like orchestras, but then I think in my like very quick dabble, and I do mean very quick,
She's like, I
dabble
dipped a toe
with musical theater in like high school, everyone had the option to do like the school musical, or at least to audition for it. Nobody said you'd get in, but and it was already going to be competitive because like it's an arts high school, so like everybody knew if you were already in the musical theater department or the theater for acting, like it was a requirement that they're in it anyway. But like anybody else, you know, if you're a visual arts musician, whatever, vocalist, you can audition. You might get an ensemble part, you might get a lead part. Who knows what you got, but like it's open. It was loosely open. And so me and my little musician program as a violinist, I was like, no. My freshman year, I was like, no, but I went to go see, they did Shrek the Musical. I went to go see it, and I was like,
love Shrek the Musical.
Yes.
it was actually really good. I was so surprised. But I went to go see it, and I was like, I can do that.
I can do that.
Right.
Literally.
I was like, that's actually not that crazy.
Yeah.
Like the dances weren't that crazy. I was like, oh, I can follow chord. Oh, okay. So I auditioned the following year, my sophomore year, and lo and behold, I was in the musical sophomore, junior, senior year.
We love
Right.
Yeah. So it's just like an affirming moment of like, oh, I think I can do that. I can do that.
It's like
And then they
taking
tell
that
you-
chance on yourself.
Yeah.
To do it, to try it, and then you
Yeah.
actually get it, and you're like, I knew I could do it.
Right.
I knew I could do it.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about that transition from, or I guess it's not really transition because there's still a level of like contemporary dance, I feel like, within the shows that you're in, but like still like going from contemporary to musical theater, because like dance companies, you know, it's like strictly, you know, this or that, you know, like it's very serious concert dance, and which is why I'm kind of annoyed with it right now, but also like I remember when I got first introduced to musical theater, my teacher, she was like on the first national tour of Wicked, and so she would like
on,
teach us like the different, you know, different tracks and stuff of like all these different Broadway shows, and like I remember it being so fun. Like it was so drastically different from like contemporary or ballet, like which was so serious and European and, you know, not feeling like you fit in, and seeing that there was this other field that was still dance, but it invited like joy into the room. It invited like happiness. It invited like, okay, maybe we don't have to take things too seriously all the time because you're acting too, and you know, if you mess up, you can kind of just be like, wow, like I don't know, like you can play it off a little bit more, you know. So I'm just interested in that kind of maybe like realization moment for you when you were like, oh my god, like maybe like musical theater Broadway is something that I really want to hone in on, focus on, kind of thing.
It's interesting. I actually grew up like I loved singing and I loved dancing, but for some reason the idea of musical theater, I was
Did
like,
it click?
nah. I don't know. And also I think at first, like I'm not gonna lie, I thought some musicals, I was like, I don't know if that's necessarily my vibe.
Fair.
The Hamilton phase, I was like, I see it, but like at first I was like, I don't know.
I hated Hamilton when it first came out.
No, like
Every musical theater kid was singing it at school, and I was like, y'all need to relax.
I still can't get through it to this day.
I eat it up.
and now I
it
eat it
now.
up. Right. I'm like, guilty.
Every
Guilty.
day I'm like listening to that soundtrack.
Yes. And I've like been in the auditions. I'm like, wait, this is tea.
Mine's just like
Like, this is good. This is really good stuff. But no, at first I was like, I don't know. But I like I said earlier, my studio would have like this summer intensive for 4 weeks. And one of the classes that they offered was musical theater. And we had this teacher, his name is Parker Essie. Shout out to Parker.
Parker Essie?
Yes.
Girl.
Wait,
Girl. Parker.
Another connection.
The dance world is so small. He came, because I went to performing arts high school in Houston. And he came and he would like teach master classes. I'm pretty sure he set a work. I wasn't in his work, but everyone kind of knew everybody's dances because, I mean, we're dance majors and stuff. But girl,
Yes.
Parker Essie.
Yeah. Wait, what school did you go to?
I went to HSPVA.
Yes. Okay. This is making so much sense. Yep. Okay.
We love it.
Locking in. I think, I can't remember which of my friends have been, but I definitely have friends that went to that high school.
Oh my God. I
sure.
guarantee if you were to list them, I would know every single one of
Yes.
them.
I have to like think and look on. I'll be like, did they go to Booker T or did they go to?
Look, I know Booker T people.
Yes. Oh my god, so wild. But yes, Parker used to come to my studio up in Rochester like every summer, pretty much. Excuse me. And Parker would set kind of a work on us. Like there was one summer he set this sing number.
Stop.
Did he set that on y'all? That's crazy.
Because I ate that pizza. I wasn't in it. I wasn't in it. It was the class above me. Because like for our high school, like when you're a freshman or a sophomore, you don't perform in the actual like dance concert. You just have like your own showing at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year. But we were like teching, and like I was like stage manager that year or something, or ASM, and I was like watching it. That piece ate.
That's so crazy that you said that on y'all too.
Ate.
I'm like gagging right now.
They get one and they make that check.
Okay.
They make them rounds.
Okay. So everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
Everybody ate. But yes, like he said that on us one year. There were a couple others that he had done that I'm now forgetting, but he had set a good few works on us like over the years. Like had taught me since I was like really young, and like he reached out to me when he found out that I was on Broadway. Like it was such a full circle moment because he was kind of one of the first ones to really like ignite that, because I really loved all the musical theater pieces we would do, but I don't know, I think I just wasn't also exposed to it at my dance studio besides those summers. So it was kind of literally like on the back burner until summer came, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're back in musical theater class. Love this. Let me put on a jazz shoe. But then like the rest of the year, like I didn't have access to those classes at my studio. So but it kind of was a pandemic thing that when we were amidst the pandemic, I think I did a lot more research on like just thinking about life as I like was to graduate, and I was like, how do I first of all also make a living as a dancer? Like contemporary dance companies are not paying the girls
unless you in the big ones, baby. You ain't making no money.
Yes, it's really sad. And even some of the larger ones, like it can be tough to make like a livable wage. Like a lot of them teach on the side, a lot of them, which is great as they should. But I think like for me, I knew I was like, I don't feel like I'm very called to teach. I don't know if I'm called to do much else. And my goal, like with everything, I was like, I want to make my living off of dancing, if I can, and sharing that like in performing. So I don't know, that was kind of like always my goal. So I kind of had that reckoning. I was like, maybe I should tap into this, like these chords and see what can actually happen.
You're like, right? You're like, let's see what I got here.
Right. So, but yeah, I had grown up singing in like chorus in high school and back at church, and just hadn't really seriously tapped into it and taken too many lessons until I was like 17, 18. And then kind of didn't take any throughout college really. And then towards the end of college, like started doing a little bit more research. And then as I would get auditions, and as they would come up, like I would have a voice teacher that I would work with, but I hadn't really actually fully started coaching until I was like in Moulin Rouge. And I was like working with the music directors in that show, and also was getting outside coaching from a couple different people. So yeah, kind of a late bloomer, but thank God it's worked. And like I've kind of figured it out for myself, and like have had to, especially in the earlier days, was navigating a lot of these auditions with like my vocal coach and myself, just kind of having a more natural ear to like figuring out music and already naturally being able to sing a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I love how that like little seed of musical theater was planted in Parker when you were back at your studio. Like I feel like in listening to other people's stories that have been on the podcast, or like just getting to know them personally, I feel like that's like a common thing I start to notice. Like, they weren't sure like what they're doing now. They always had a passion for it, but also like wasn't really sure how it was going to happen. But then they're like reflecting way, way, way back, and they're like, this is the first moment when I was introduced to it, but it always like sat on the back burner, and then like full circle moment, now we're on Broadway, now this person's doing that, whatever it is. Like it's just so amazing how like life just literally works itself out, I feel like. And I just like, queen.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And kind of going back a little bit to speak about like taking a chance on yourself. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with like the singing portion of this. And if I'm not wrong, please correct me, Miss Ma'am, Mariah Carey?
Oh, yes. Yes. So I did very randomly, but it was kind of random. I didn't book it necessarily because I could sing. Like I have a singing reel. My agents have like a singing reel for me when they like send me out for things. But I randomly was on the way to dinner with my friend Lisa, and we were going to this Italian place, and on the way there, like on the subway, my agents emailed me and they were like, hey, super random, but can you send us a selfie of what you currently look like something that you just most recently like took of yourself? And I just got my hair re-rated.
Hey,
So I had this like brown with blonde streaks, and I had taken selfies, so I was like, oh, like I thought it looked nice. And I sent that to them, and I was like, and they're like, it's for a project. They're like looking for a person to kind of fill in. And I was like, okay. And they weren't telling me what it was.
Okay.
And then while we were at dinner, I got an email, and they were like, okay, so they liked like what you looked like and like watched some of your stuff. And so you booked Mariah Carey's Christmas Spectacular, and it's happening tomorrow. And you have to learn these videos of kind of choir choreography and the set list. And I was like, whoa.
Wait a minute.
1 second.
Mariah Carey.
Whoa.
First of all, Mariah, like what? Like so much nostalgia. And that Christmas album like
is like spectacular.
Yeah, right.
Literally.
Insane. So I was gagged.
That's crazy.
I ended up kind of just learning like the set list and singing along with them, because like there already was like a bit of a backing track, but there were like mics that were like hanging down, so we were heard for sure. So I was like, let me
let me sing for real.
Right, let me sing for real, let me turn it on, because but yeah, it happened very quickly, like literally booked that the night before that concert. Insane. And yeah, I got to sing with Mariah Carey.
That's so cool.
She said, hey. I was like, yeah. Like when she walked, I was like, oh my gosh. So it was wild. It was one of those really cool moments where I was like, this is just beyond.
That's
like
awesome.
Yeah. So, but yeah, again, though, taking a chance on myself. Like they saw my materials and saw the selfie I took, and they were like, her. And sometimes that's how those gigs are also.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I wanna ask you more about having an agency, because I think the difference between Tamia and Tashelle don't have an agency.
Okay.
And you do. And I mean, this is commonly known, like if you have an agency, it's so much easier to get jobs, get put out there, because you literally have someone working on your behalf to do that. And so just like, what is that experience like getting an agency? Was there a period where you didn't have one, and then now that you have one, you're like, oh my gosh, I actually feel like I have a chance? Like what's the inner dialogue? Like what is that like?
So I actually post-grad, one of my friends, Malcolm, who was in The Lion King and now he's on the MJ tour.
Okay.
Yes, Malcolm Young.
Yeah.
He had recently like met and signed with this agency called CESD. And I was like just kind of looking around, trying to kind of figure it out, because it was super daunting in how to get an agent, because also like the NYU dance program, we didn't really talk about that much, because it was super contemporary focused. And I think like sometimes there's an assumption that like contemporary dancers don't necessarily want an agent because of the kind of stark difference in sometimes some of the gigs and jobs that you'll go in for if you have an agent. But yeah, so he had signed with them, and I asked him a lot about his experience and how he even got in contact with them. And he kind of summer of 2021, right after I graduated, kind of put me on, and I was like, is there an email that I can email, or who do I send materials to? And he gave me his agent and now my agent their emails, and I just sent a introductory like email introducing myself, what I was interested in, some things that I had done before, like a resume, detailing some of my past experience, and also detailing that I want to possibly like pivot to more so musical theater or do some commercial work. But CESD is primarily a musical theater agency. So, and I was like, that's fine with me. Like, I really love, like, I'm like really getting into, at that time, musicals, was doing a lot more research and was like, okay, this is something that I feel like I would be able to do and could be good at. So I kind of like looked at some of the people that were on their roster and talked to my friend about it. And he said they were accepting new clients. So I just sent that email. We scheduled, they got back to me like a few days later. We scheduled a meeting via Zoom. I asked them kind of a bunch of questions about just how agencies work, like what they submit me for, what are some of the materials that I need to kind of like re-up in order for me to get the most and some of the best auditions and feedback. And yeah, kind of just asked the questions that I had, and eventually they called me back and they were like, yeah, we would love to sign you, and we're going to send you this essentially agency contract. And CESD does one like 18 months, like every 18 months you can kind of renew, excuse me. And yeah, I've been with them ever since. And that was kind of just literally like utilizing my network of friends and, you know, asking the questions that I was like, I actually, you know, just not being afraid to ask those questions. Because sometimes it can be daunting to kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't know if this person wants a gatekeep or like, can I ask this thing?
I mean, because that is the thing. Like, people do be doing that, and you kind of be like,
you have to watch your back a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to be an artist just like you trying to be an artist.
Right. So, right.
What are you doing?
So, but yeah, I've helped so many. I like after that, like people would be like, "Oh, like tell me about your agency," and I've like sent them the email because I'm like, I'm not a gatekeeper. That's never gonna be me. Like, but yeah, I'm always trying to be for the people. So period. But yeah, so I think like it just was a nice moment of my friend kind of helping me out and looking out for me and kind of putting also like sort of a good word saying that he knew me and. You know, she can sing. And because also in our agency, like, since it's theatrical dancers that they're representing, you're gonna have to be singing in these auditions. Right. So a lot of the times, like, it can sometimes be harder for them to like be convinced to represent you, especially like in certain agencies, if you're not able to sing. Whereas for other agencies, if they have more commercial dancers on their roster and like send their clients some more commercial dance auditions, like you don't necessarily have to be able to sing to be in that and do that. Like there's a ton of other agencies that are more like commercial focused where you know great dancers are repped by them and singers too, but not always. So it kind of just depends on what your needs are, what your goals are. If you feel like they're representing people that you kind of identify with and like want to sometimes model your career after, but also sometimes like if they have people that look like you on their roster already or are like could be in the same type or have similar goals, sometimes they might not always be willing to represent the people that might be the same category of person. Not necessarily just in look, but also like in like, I don't know, they don't want like the same people always going in for the same things. But yeah, so I think those were some of the things that I was just looking at and thinking about when I was looking at different agencies.
And you can be like as transparent or vague as you want, or you can choose not to answer this question at all.
Sure.
But I know that when either signing to an agency or if people are trying to find a new union to join, like there are like upfront costs or like, you know, and that really, you know, makes people hesitant or not end up signing at all because you know, it's like a matter of, oh, can I afford to have an agent? And so are there upfront costs with that? Or is it truly just like, you know, they sign with you and as soon as you book something, they'll take like 10 or 15% of your check? Like what is the reality or like the concrete steps, I guess, like if you are signing with an agency?
Yeah, so I don't mind being transparent about it. So for rehearsal contracts or for like a lab, I think like for like certain labs or developmental contracts, they'll take 5% out of my paycheck during a rehearsal period. So like, for example, when I was rehearsing for Gypsy, they were just taking 5%. Then as soon as we started like previews and performances, they start taking 10 because our salaries go up a little bit at that time as well. Yeah, that's usually what it is. They'll 5 to 10. It's never more than that. I didn't have any upfront costs to join my agency, but unions, yes,
For sure. Yeah.
But I kind of was in a very fortunate situation in which I received my Actors Equity membership after I booked Oklahoma. So I was already at a certain point, like mid tour. Equity actually like reached out to me and my the company managers of the tour. They were like, hey, you've been on tour too long, like not in the union. So like they're going to start taking money out of your paycheck. If you opt to not join the union at the end of this tour, like you can get that money back, or you can opt to join the union and the money that you've paid out of your paychecks will go towards the initiation fee, which for Actors Equity is quite expensive. I think it's like $1,800.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's giving sorority.
Yeah.
It's giving Greek life.
Yeah, so it is quite expensive, but it was easier to manage because thank goodness that they like reached out to me and did that. So they started taking like, I can't remember what the percentage was out of every paycheck, but they started taking it out. So by the time I got off of tour, I had paid like over half of it, which was really great. So like, and after tour, like tour was interesting because it's different than Broadway, where like you get overages, meaning that like if they're making essentially more than the show costs, we get a bit of that profit as well in a tour like Oklahoma. So I was getting, after the tour ended, I got some vacation pay, I got like overage pay, I got like sick day pay that I hadn't used, which ended up being a really nice like good lump sum that could help pay that amongst like my bills and other things that like I ended up kind of being able to not be as stressed until a certain point when I like was able to kind of freelance and was figuring out my employment until Moulin Rouge. But yeah, like stuff like that is much more expensive. And also like I think like if you want to be in SAG-AFTRA, which is a different the TV union, that one is like $3,500 or something like that.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not in that union.
Yeah. That's really helpful to know, because I do think like an agency is the best first start when you're trying to catapult your career. And hearing that somebody's going to take a percentage out of your check is like annoying, but also someone's like, oh, why would I do that? But I'm also like, the government already doing that, like it's already happening. And like if it can give you the opportunity to be on Broadway, just really get you out there, then like maybe it's not so scary. Maybe it's worth that risk, taking to just seeing what happens. And after that 18 months, if you don't want to renew your contract, then it'd be done.
And honestly, like a lot of folks may or may not know this, but for some people, if you opt to, I mean, I haven't done this, but some people, like after a year that you're on the show that you book, that your agents, like the first show that your agents book for you, you can opt to not pay them after a year if you want. I mean, I pay my agents because I feel like that's a courtesy, but also like people, if they're like, you know what, I'm okay, like I want to keep my money, people also will sometimes do that too. I mean, so you do have options. Yeah. And also sometimes if you stop paying them after that year, that gives them more incentive to like find jobs. I mean, I think that's like a give or take. I wouldn't probably ever personally do that. Yeah. But like, it kind of depends on the person and like what their needs and wants are and like how they want to kind of like navigate everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
That's awesome.
Because I feel like that addressed like some concerns that people do have about working through an agency, is like the scary portion of, one, the contract itself, but then two, how much money are they taking for real?
Yeah.
And so I think that's also kind of where like understanding the contract that you're being given, and even if you don't know everything, at least understanding like what it is that you're signing up for at the very least plays a huge part into making that decision, because I think there's like a unspoken but spoken fear around that. And
there's so much fear around contracts in general, and I think so I was gonna say this earlier, but this season for this podcast is all about like education and like focusing on the different ways artists, wherever they are at in their career, either find themselves like having to self-educate themselves because of like certain things that they didn't know, or like what their experience was like going through arts and education, whether it's like undergrad programs or ballet studios, like whatever it is. And so I feel like we always like have this moment in the podcast where we're like, okay, we hear the experience of guests, and then we relate it to education and say, okay, like what can be done differently for future artists that want to be in your position or are in their position, to help them better understand like how they can navigate the world and not be so scared to, maybe get an agency, or like what can they do to research or like get in touch with these resources that can really help boost their career. And I think like, reading contracts is like one of them. And I mean, like we both like took contracts this last semester. And so like it's been so helpful, because like we're able to recognize like the certain language for ourselves, but also if we're speaking to somebody else, be like like contracts isn't so bad, like just take the time, you can learn about it, but not just legally. Like there are other aspects, like building upon like administrative skills. If you are in an 8 months off season and you need more work, you could maybe work part-time for a dance company or for your local dance studio, or orchestra, like it can really be applicable to any field. But we really wanted to stress education this season, because last season we talked about personal experiences and like really focused on like the Black experience and how like it be tough out here, and like it be lonely, and people be judging and all that stuff. But now I guess just taking a different lens into the nuances of our experiences as artists, and highlighting the role that education plays in that in whatever way, So yeah.
And I guess speaking of education and kind of closing out, what are some of the like your major lessons that you've learned along your journey so far? Like you've done a lot, you've experienced a lot.
I mean, there's so many. I think one of the biggest ones is like ask for what you want. The worst people can say is no.
Fair.
And I think sometimes I have been in situations where I'm like, I have curiosities about that, or how that could maybe be better or more accessible, or just like overall more suited for the situation that we're in. Like if I ask this thing, the worst I'll hear is no. But sometimes like a lot of the time people actually will be willing to work with you, or like help you try to understand something better, or why something is the way it is, or if there's any wiggle room. So I think like that is a big lesson that I've learned. Honestly, like people might call it being delusional, but I truly think like being dead set on something and just like saying that this is what's gonna happen and believing that for yourself. I mean, I'm super big into like writing things down, like praying obviously about things, and like just really digging deep within myself to like find that motivation and drive, and also like maintaining the confidence that like I am built for this. Like I wouldn't be given this like God-given gift if I didn't if there wasn't a reason for me to be in these positions and like share like my talent, and also like share resources, and like not gatekeeping, and like like everybody like taking away the idea of like competition, and really just like community rather than that, because I think like we're all in our own lanes and are navigating the world differently and have our own lives that are so different than one another.
Right.
So giving space for that and grace for that, but also like maintaining like my sense of self and like but community and building community within all of this. So it's fun. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It can be scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, betting on yourself and just like maintaining community around you is huge.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It is.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so
you.
much for being
Thank
here.
you for having me.
I'm like, we gotta connect because
Yes!
I'm like, I want to talk more about your background and like see the We
Some
gonna talk about
connections.
Ely. We gonna talk about Ely.
Right, and Parker. Yes. Shout out to him.
Shout out to Parker.
That's so funny.
But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in with us for another wonderful week. We are so excited for next week's episode. And I can't wait to share it with you.
Absolutely. Toodles.
Bye, guys.
Yay.